What's going on, Titan Nation? We are getting ready to get this show started in just a bit. And we're going to have this post-game conversation as the Tennessee Titans fall again as they lose to the Los Angeles Chargers 17-14. Have lost 4 in a row. We're definitely going to talk about it. And what hope do we have? And we did get an update, also an injury update as well today. We will definitely talk about that. So everybody come on in. Make sure y'all share this show out. We're definitely going to get this show started in just a bit. And we're going to have a pretty good time. So we're going to get this show started in 60 seconds. Good evening, Titan Nation. How's everybody? What's going on, Titan Nation? How's everybody doing? Welcome in to TNT tonight. I'm your host, Chris, aka Blue Enforcer, and we are gonna try to have a good conversation here tonight as we talk about the Tennessee Titans and this god awful loss that they suffered to the LA Chargers, 17-14. Y'all come on in. Come on into the channel. Make sure y'all share this show out. Let everybody know where you can find it. Of course, you can follow me on Facebook. As you can see right here, you can go Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure y'all follow on those channels, whether it is the TNT Enforcers page or on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer or on Instagram at Titans_N_truth. Definitely make sure y'all follow that, and then that way you get some of the updates of things that are going on, and then that way you'll be able to be a part of everything that's happening. So definitely glad to have everybody in. I know more people will start trickling in just a bit this afternoon. I would have done something last night, but I had some things I had to deal with. I just didn't have a lot of time to put everything together. I was kind of worn down yesterday, so I kind of had to, put some things together. And I want to put together the best possible show for all of you. So that's why I'm like, I decided to wait before doing this show today. So thank y'all for being patient with me. And we're going to have some fun. Nevertheless, try to anyway, even though we had this god-awful loss to the LA Chargers 17-14. And so let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time on this. Again, super chats, of course, are also appreciated as well. And so I just thank everybody for tuning in, but let's get started. So the Tennessee Titans, I see Rocky Yit is in here. I saw Derek Roberts was in here. Downing Dudley's Sunday combo meal. Would rather eat a bucket of Church's chicken. Church's chicken is probably way better than a Downing Dudley meal. Absolutely. I mean, I've had Church's chicken. Church's chicken, when cooked right, is actually really good. What's up, AZ Mick? And what's up, Rocky Yit? I mean, Church's chicken is better. KFC is good. Hell, Jack Pirtles down here in Memphis is better than a Dudley Daily special. I'll even take some Uncle Lou's or some Mr. P's, anything like that. Anything is better than that combination because both of them stink. They are horrible at what they do. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the god-awful and everything. So, we just go get right into it. Again, the Titans fall in a game. They lose 17-14. They fall to 7-7 on the year. Losers of 4 straight. And make matters worse, the Jaguars earlier in the day beat the Dallas Cowboys 40-34 off of a walk-off pick 6. So now they're at 6-8. So that insurmountable lead that you had about a month ago is gone. You are only a game up on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And y'all remember me saying this. I said that in about a year or two, the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be a problem. Let me just say the Jaguars are a problem right now. They are a problem, and they are a threat. They have a franchise quarterback. They have a pretty competent coach. They're young, and they're only getting better. They're heading up. They're getting hot at the right time. The Titans are falling at the wrong time. That's exactly what's going on. Bad things are happening at the worst possible time for the Tennessee Titans. Around this time of year is where you're supposed to get hot, where you're supposed to be getting ready to go into the playoffs. Right now, the Titans are not playing anywhere near like a team that's getting ready to go into the playoffs. They're playing like a team that's ready to call it a day, ready to give up. And I don't think this team is going to give up because I don't think that's the type of team that they are. But, I mean, you know, if you heard some of the press conference, some of the after game interviews with some of these guys, you would think that, somebody's family member died or somebody's just down. Again, I have this. Here is Kevin Byard, one of our big leaders, probably one of the most positive people around. This is what he had to say after the game.
Things slipping away?
It seemed like it. I don't know.
Jaguars one behind you.
I mean, we lost. I mean, division's still there, but personally, I can care less about that. Like, I'm not really into. I mean, obviously, want to win the division and all that stuff, but I'm not really into like just getting to the playoffs and all that shit. It don't look like we're a team right now that's gonna beat anybody. So.
And that is Kevin Byard, and that comment is extremely telling. I mean, and I got much love for the mayor of Murfreesboro. He's usually like, vibrant and full of energy, full of zeal. Even after lost a game that, he close to winning and things like that, he'll be, looking for the positive. Right now, I mean, it ain't looking too hot. And I mean, you could tell in the way that he's saying it is that he just basically said it. We don't look like a team that's going to beat anybody right now. I have never heard the Tennessee Titans as low as they are now. And Mike Vrabel did the same thing in his press conference. I'm not going to play that because I'm not going to make your ears bleed by hearing the simple coach speak. But basically, Mike Vrabel, was way more salty than usual. Cutting people off. We know Vrabel doesn't like talking to the media anyway, but I have a major problem with Mike Vrabel disrespecting one Teresa Walker, who is a Hall of Famer, who is one of the nicest people around. And, Vrabel basically cut her off on her question. I'm trying to see if on her Twitter if she have it, but basically I think she was asking a question and basically said, well, in a smart way, was making it seem like it was a dumb question. I mean, when has Miss Teresa ever asked a dumb question? Not ever. I mean, he basically made himself sound like Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton had on the Smokey the Bear hat with the scarf around his face talking about, it's funny to hear a woman talking about routes. That's kind of how Mike Vrabel was sounding and kind of disrespected Miss Teresa on that. And I didn't take too kindly to that. And I mean, he did that with a couple of people, making it seem like the media was asking dumb questions and things like that. No, those are actually pretty good questions. It's the fact that Mike Vrabel continues to deflect, he continues to coach speak, and he continues to not take accountability. Now, in a small way he did, because in the press conference on yesterday, he basically said, the performance of the team wasn't good enough. I am responsible for every call that goes in. Let's stop right there. For a long time, and I want to ask y'all this question, and I'm about to put it up. Who is to blame for this loss? We can go a whole lot of different ways on this. It could be offensive line. It could be the dud, Dennis Daly. It could be drowning. It could be, injuries on defense. Things like that. But, I mean, you really can't blame the defense, because even though they're being decimated by injury, they still held the Chargers to 17 points. A team that could score quite a bit. No receiver had 100 yards receiving, and no running back had 100 yards rushing. So I want to know who is to blame, because, Vrabel is speaking right now, and I'm going to see if I can possibly pull it up. I appreciate y'all giving me word.
Cincinnati or Philly to kind of get.
This is Mike Vrabel live, courtesy of the Buck Rising Show.
We don't really, we have to focus on this week and how we pull it all together, and try to combine all the good stuff, that we've done, and find a way to prepare and find a way to win.
What's the balance between game planning for the Texans and preparing for potential impact of the weather?
Well, I think it could be windy. It'll be cold. I think the impact of the kicking game, I think that, we would have had to prepare to return kicks against the Texans anyways. They're a very good special teams unit, very good kickoff. I think they're, first or second in kickoffs inside the 20-yard line. So even in the dome, they're Fairbairn's kicking them up there. They're covering them extremely well. So we would have had to return kickoffs and be really good in that phase from a special teams standpoint. Maybe just ball security, understanding that, how critical it is here late in the year when you're dealing with weather, and if it snows, it snows. If it rains or freezes, they'll be, the same for everybody.
It could be the coldest game ever here, but you guys have played colder games before, so it really shouldn't make that big of a difference, should it?
Well, I hope it, never makes a difference. We've played in the rain, we've played in the snow, and, you kind of go through a lot of these things, and we'll get some work inside today, and then we'll work our way outside as the week goes along, and then everybody will have to just be prepared in their own way whether that's the footing or the shoes that we wear, or, all the other things that go along with playing in weather games.
You try not to ask players to do more than they're capable of. When you're as depleted as you are, does that become more difficult?
Well, I think the challenge that we've always talked about is, do you try to do more, right, and try to come up with some magic scheme, or do you try to do less and try to focus on execution? And I think there's a balance somewhere in between. Some plays that, maybe we thought, or some defensive scheme maybe that we thought that, hey, let's do that, and then, it didn't go very well, or we didn't execute it. I think that there's always a really great ability to execute your scheme, what you've practiced and the bread and butter, and, mixing in a couple tweaks in the red zone and maybe on third down defensively. I think trying to have a core of what we do so that these parts that these players that, whether it's John Reed last week, for example, or Jack Gibbons that maybe haven't been out there as much, or, when Monty Rice was working his way back in, and different, Andrew Adams, and now the volumes for some of these guys.
Okay. So that is a little bit of the Mike Vrabel press conference. I'm not going to bleed your ears out completely on that, but, they were obviously asking about, the upcoming game against the Texans. The weather could possibly be an issue, and that it's going to be really cold. And everything on that, and there was a lot of coach speak there, basically saying, you got, to prepare for the elements and things like that, and so I really didn't get a whole lot out of that. But the question was, of course, who do we blame for this loss and for this 4-game losing streak that the Tennessee Titans are on? Again, as Mike Vrabel stated, it's on him. He says he is responsible for every play call that goes in. He is responsible. He says it's on him. And so I'm going to go to some of y'all comments, and we're going to try to run through some of these as we continue and we go into the, the good, bad, and god-awful. Rocky It says, I mostly blame the inconceivable amount of injuries this team has. It's unreal. Something needs to change. I'm saying don't use that as an excuse because they won despite injuries last year, but it is a reason. It is a reason, and that is something that has to be looked at. I do agree. Titan South says dark days are ahead, and it very well could be. And, of course, Rocky is saying also, if we could just play one game, we could CDC play one game with all players available, who knows what it could look like. True. Derek Roberts says, tear it down. I've seen enough. Titan Fox says, we get healthy by the time the playoffs come around and stop using Dennis Daly, we might actually have a chance. I know it's hoping beyond hope. But this is what a true fan does every year. And Rocky says, I appreciate KB speaking up, being real. Tired of the trash offense. Do we rest Tannehill for the Dallas game? And I actually got some news on that. So, after 4th trailer, there's a lot. Darren Rob says, not surprised by his rudeness. Titan Fox says, not taking accountability is the best thing you've said in a week. Is that right? Is that right? So that's the best thing I've said all week. How interesting. So I appreciate that, all love. So I see where some of y'all are going as far as that. Responsible for predictable play calling. Defense played well. Our defense did well, but our offense probably missing Burks. I do agree. Said Vrabel's responsible for every play call that goes through him first. Why are we still blaming Downing? And that's the excellent point. I think at the end of the day, first off, John Robinson is gone. You can't blame him. You can't blame John Robinson because He's gone. He's fired. And Mike Vrabel said, I am responsible for every play call that goes in. You know what that tells me now? Mike Vrabel, this is your fault. This is on you. And your stubbornness to adapt, and that's the problem with him and Todd Downing. Neither one is very good at adapting to the game. No feel for the game. They don't adjust. They don't adapt to what's going on. The defense played extremely well, and yet the offense is holding them back. And I think coaching is holding them back. I really do. So, right now we're in a scary situation. So I do blame Vrabel for this loss because I think the coaching stunk. And this loss hurts like hell. Yes, it does. It hurts like hell because you had a chance at the end. And so let's go ahead and get to the good, the bad, and the god-awful. The good, the bad, the god-awful. And Titans South says, if we miss the playoffs, the GM will probably fire Vrabel and Downing. And honestly, I have a thought about that. So I'm going to save that. Titans South, I appreciate that. We are definitely going to get back into that. But the good, the bad, and the god-awful. And let's start off with the good. The good was the defense deserved to win this game and got screwed. And that's exactly why. After that first drive where the Chargers went down and scored, the Titan defense got itself together. They rallied up and they found a way to stay in the game. Because after that, the Chargers really didn't score again until the fourth quarter. The Tennessee Titans defense held up as best as they could. And one play in particular, Byard had an interception. The defense got about 3 sacks. The pass rush, was there. The pass rush came back. I believe Herbert was sacked 3 times. DeMarcus Walker had 2 sacks, and Simmons had the other. Kevin Byard had an interception, and then probably one of the plays of the year, right before halftime, an absolutely brilliant play by Roger McCreary, as 615 Podcast brought up, was the McCreary, the McCreary tip to I'm trying to find it. But that McCreary tip to Kalu for the interception, was awesome. That was a terrific, heads-up play that was just a great heads-up play by Roger McCreary. He knew he was heading out of bounds. He catches it and then tips it to Kalu, who was right there. And great job by Kalu with the toe drag swag, toe dragging to stay in bounds and get it called as a touchback. That was brilliant. Great IQ. That is having football IQ. That is knowing where you are on the field and say, oh, my teammate's right there. Let me get it to him instead. Because if McCreary catches it and it just goes out of bounds, Chargers get 3 points. So that play not only causes a turnover, but it takes, not only does it take points away, but it was the first takeaway the Titans had in 5 games. And then Byard got the interception in the second half. The defense, for the most part, did their job. But the offense let them down. And Derek Roberts says losses like that can turn an offense against defense. Got to be careful. I honestly think if I'm the defense, I'm kind of ticked off at the offense. I mean, this could. Everybody said I would have been proud of that tip drill. Oh my God, I love that. That is brilliant. I got to star that and save it for later. That was an amazing comment there. And I think, but that was a brilliant play. Defense deserved to win. But, Chig continues to impress. He had 4 catches, 54 yards. Today had a big catch. I believe that set up a game-tying touchdown as well. So he continues to improve. And then, Derrick Henry kind of got back to being himself. Had 21 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown. Had 4 catches for 59 yards, including a big 37-yard catch and run that helped score the first touchdown that the Titans had. And so, Derrick Henry is definitely showing himself to be a reliable, is getting back to being himself a little bit. And lastly, finally, they go with Dylan Radunz at right tackle. At left tackle. They finally decide to go with Dylan Radunz at left tackle. And I know everybody will say it was just a small sample size. And we really didn't get to see everything out of Dylan Radunz. I thought Dylan Radunz in the 15 snaps he played held up fine. There was 1 or 2 pass rushes that was a pressure. That was almost looking like a pressure. But he held his own. He did have that holding penalty on his first snap. But then after that, I don't think was too terribly bad. He was way better than Dennis the Dud Daly, who we'll talk about later. But that was some of the good. The bad. No wide receiver effect again. Now, Chris Conley almost could have been taken off that list because he had a catch, went down. It didn't look like nobody touched him. He got up and had the awareness to keep running towards the end zone, but then the refs blew the whistle. I honestly would have looked at that to see if there was a touch. And if it wasn't, I would have ruled it a touchdown. Because I don't think Chris Conley got touched. But other than that, no effectiveness for the wide receiver core whatsoever. Nothing from Robert Woods. Nothing from Nick Westbrook-Akina. No wide receiver had over 20 yards. Conley had 3 for 19. That was your best from your wide receivers. Meanwhile, and I know a lot of y'all are going to hate me keep bringing this up, but I'm gonna. The guy that John Robinson stupidly traded had 181 yards and a touchdown for the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown. And I know y'all are sick of me bringing him up, but I'm gonna. Well, he didn't have a touchdown, but he had 9 for 81. He had 74 catches, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Think about that for a moment. He has literally and I'm looking this up. He has almost he has nearly 40%. The Titans receivers combined, and really, I have to take tight ends. I try to take tight ends out of this. Or running backs. I should have had the numbers for just receivers. But I'm pretty sure A.J. Brown has almost as many, if not more, yards than all wide receivers combined. He definitely has more touchdowns than wide receivers combined. Robert Woods did nothing. Nick Westbrook-Akina didn't have a catch. So the wide receiver core is trash without Treylon Burks. The dud was horrible again, because as soon as Dylan Raiders goes in, no sacks, not bad. Offense did okay. Dylan Raiders gets hurt. And Raiders finally got his chance, and he got hurt. And we haven't gotten an update on Dylan Raiders since. So we don't know if it was just a minor injury and they were just holding him out, or if it was significant. We don't know. We haven't heard a thing. So he finally got his shot and he gets hurt, which was very unfortunate. Because then the dud had to go back in and immediately gave up a sack not too long after the play. Him and Aaron Brewer, that left side is awful. Is awful. So that was the bad, but that does lead into the god-awful. I blame coaching. The coaching was a massive failure in this game. And I start at the top with Mike Vrabel. Again, you don't have John Robinson to be the scapegoat. He keeps wanting to say, well, it's execution, want to blame the players. Dude, you already played that card before. You can't keep blaming the players. At some point, you've got to look at yourself and be like, you know what? This is my fault. I'm the one that lets Todd Downing continue to be the offensive coordinator even though he sucks. And I'm the one that continues to let Dennis the Dud Daly in at left tackle when I could have put Dylan Radins in a long time ago. And you probably could have won a couple of games, or probably could have kept your quarterback upright and Tannehill left with an injury. But I think coaching was a massive failure. Downing continues to drown, and Vrabel is kind of drowning with him because, again, it's that Mike Mularkey effect. It's that Mike Mularkey effect. It just seems like Mike Vrabel is willing to die on a hill for Todd Downing. He is willing to die for Todd Downing. Derek Roberts says no play action call on second and short. Titan Fox says Raiders did awesome at left tackle, small sample size. Just wish he wasn't cursed with the Titans injury bug. And again, that's the last thing. The injury bug just won't leave us alone. And that is true. Robert Woods leads the team in receiving with just 418 yards and 40 catches. That's it. And the most targets anybody has is 72. That's bad. Chiggs and Burks gives us a light for the future. I could say so. Now, Rocky Yit does bring up another point. Randy Bullock missing us a kick. And some of that was on a sack. Dennis the Dud Daly gave up a sack on third down, and instead of it being a 43 243-yard field goal. It turns into a 51-yarder, and he missed. So, obviously, Rocky, it says bad. Dennis Dudley, Nick Westbrook-Akina play calling. AJ is playing in a way better offense. True. 615 Podcast says, I go after Sammy Watkins right now. I don't know if Sammy Watkins helps improve the wide receiver core. Leave no stone unturned. Rocky says, as it stands right now, the Titans will play the Ravens in the playoffs. How do you feel about that matchup? Not good. I don't really have a lot of faith in this team right now. And Caesar, the editor, comes in and says, don't get me wrong, we all want Downing gone, but do you think Vrabel is like, let's just ride this out and worry about it in the offseason? Here's the problem I have with that. Vrabel is letting it ride out to the end of the year. But what we're all afraid of is that Vrabel will not make the necessary move to better the football team. Remember how Vrabel always says, don't do dumb stuff to hurt the football team? What he's doing with Todd Downing is literally dumb stuff to hurt the football team. That is exactly what he's doing. And Class Ron saying, I've read the Mike Mularkey comparison somewhere. I've been saying the Mike Mularkey comparison for months. For a long time. Because, again, I keep saying this. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And right now, do you notice that the history is repeating itself? Vrabel is doing the exact same thing that Mularkey did. He did the same thing. He was like, we're going to ride it out with Terry Robisky to the end of the year. And going into the playoffs, the rumors were coming out that Mike Mularkey may get fired after the season. And, he felt like he didn't have no confidence from the team or from the organization. And mainly, the rumor is, and I believe this, was that Miss Amy or John Robinson said, you need to fire Terry Robisky. And Mike Mularkey basically said no. And that's exactly what happened. They probably went to him and said, hey, we want to keep you as head coach, but you got to get rid of Terry Robisky. You need to fire him. It's either he goes or you go. And Mike Mularkey said no, and so he got fired. I think Mike Vrabel is heading down that exact same road. And I know a lot of people in the media was like, well, Mike Vrabel's never had a losing season, although we're heading in that direction. Mike Vrabel hasn't had a losing season. And he's a good coach. A good coach understands to know when to cut bait, cut dead weight. Todd Downing is dead weight. And he is dragging this team down. And Mike Vrabel is not doing anything about it. The dud is dragging this team down. And Mike Vrabel hasn't done a damn thing about it. He's waited all year. He's waited 13 games to say, you know what? Let's try Dylan Raiders at left tackle. And then, I believe it was Buckweiser or somebody, or it might have been Zach on A to Z today, said, well, it's a lot harder to play left tackle. It's a lot harder to learn left tackle than right tackle. And I'm thinking, Dylan Raiders played left tackle pretty much his whole life. You put him at his natural position. And so, I'm with a lot of people. Tight South. If we miss the playoffs, GM will probably fire Vrabel and Downing. And I think that's what's going to happen. If I'm GM, yeah, I walk into Vrabel's office, I've said, you either fire Downing or you're gone. And if Vrabel says anything but yes, sir, then Vrabel is like, I'm sorry, but you gotta go. And that's just what I would do. Because especially if we miss the playoffs altogether, I would be down for a complete rebuild. Start over. Clean house. Get rid of Vrabel. Get rid of Downing. Get rid of everybody. Only people that I might keep around is maybe Shane Bowen and Jim Schwartz. Might be the only ones I keep around. Maybe the tight ends coach. But I would get rid of almost everybody else. Defensively, maybe get rid of Anthony Midget. Maybe get rid of the outside linebacker coach, whoever that is, and start over. Because the Titans are collapsing right in front of us, and it is heartbreaking. They are collapsing. They are dying a slow death. They are dying a slow death. And it's just heartbreaking to see how this happened. Why not Tim Kelly? I don't know if they're not going to give him the keys. How the season end this way, I have no idea. Tremaine Ross said, I lost faith after we played the Jaguars. I think Miss Amy will just fire Downing if she has to, like she did with J-Rob, hopefully. And I will say this. I hope she does that, and if Vrabel gets mad about that, fire him too. I'm concerned about off-season contracts and free agents. It depends on who the new GM is. I leave that to him. Never hire buddies. I agree. Not going to settle for mediocrity. Just get someone else to call the plays. I know that's right. So let's keep going here. I think the Titans are collapsing in front of our very eyes. And then, like Rocky said, the one good game that Downing calls gets a DUI, and we've lost ever since. We haven't won a game since the Packer game and since the DUI. It has been just distraction after distraction after bad decision after bad decision. Elite says it's a must-win game against the Texans. Rocky says it's a huge indictment on the coaching staff that it took them 13 weeks. I agree. And that's why, again, I put Vrabel on the hot seat. If we don't win this division, I will say this. If we win the division and win a playoff game, I can see Vrabel coming back on the pretense he has to get rid of Downing. If we go into the playoffs and lose, he has to fire Downing or he's gone. If we don't make the playoffs at all, everybody's got to go. Everybody's got to go. And that Houston game, I'm not feeling very good about. Houston is a little better in the past month, even though we are losing, and that could be bad. And also, I did get some news that probably doesn't help us feel any better, and that is Ryan Tannehill is facing an uphill battle if he's going to play on Sunday. Because right now he re-injured that right ankle, and right now he's being told, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network is looking doubtful that Ryan Tannehill will play against the Houston Texans, which means Malik Willis will have to go in probably some bad conditions because it's going to be cold. Because right now, On Sunday, it looks like the temperature is going to be 29 degrees. 29 degrees is probably going to feel like somewhere in the teens. That is right now what it is looking like. And for Malik Willis, who probably doesn't play well in the elements, it's not looking too hot for him. 29 degrees. That's going to be the temperature, most likely at kickoff for Titans Texans. And Tannehill is doubtful. And that's another thing. I would look at strength and conditioning, the training staff, the medical staff. They need to get looked at as well. And so I'm with Elite. I don't think Vrabel's going to fire Downing. I don't have faith he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to have the guts to do it. And the Texans have gotten better. So this game is not a gimme. Not a gimme at all. Now, Malik had a moment or two, had a couple of nice throws, but I think he looked to run again too much. Rocky It says, if he loves coaching the Titans like he claims, he will do it. I just don't know. Luke Jones says we need to trade Henry this offseason. I think that's a last resort, but Derek Mason brought that up yesterday on his show, saying if we tear it down and start over, get some draft picks, trade Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard. I would not trade Kevin Byard if a gun was put to my head. So, Derrick Henry, the only way I trade him is if we get a new coach and we're going in a whole different offensive philosophy. Then I could see that. But I would not trade Derrick Henry unless I had no other option. And there's an offer we just couldn't refuse. And that means we're going to actually modernize this offense and get some outside weapons. So, I'm with Derek. Don't trade Henry unless we are absolutely finna tear this whole thing down. So, Tannehill doubtful. That's not good. Again, I asked y'all last week, could the Titans stop the bleeding or bleed out? I think they're heading towards bleeding out. The Jags are surging. The Texans are getting better. And the Cowboys are going to come into this game a little ticked off. I mean, they're going to play the Eagles this week. And they're still going to be upset that the Jags game slipped away. So, let's see, OC615 says, Malik doesn't run too much. He literally has to behind this line or don't end up like Tannehill. Could be. I mean, that line is not good. You don't trade a blue chip or free safety. I agree. Now, Joel says Henry and Downing is the reason why all we do is run, though. How do y'all not see that? I mean, we were doing that when Arthur Smith was the head coach. I mean, Arthur Smith was more creative, and Arthur Smith opened up the playbook more. But, I mean, when you trade away A.J. Brown, which was dumb, and Derrick Henry is your only sole offensive weapon, what else do we have to do? And I mean, this offensive line is horrible. And Vrabel is stubborn. So, you know what? I don't know. Classic Rock said Vrabel might not care. Ohio State might be talking to him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And I mean, again, I think what needs to happen is Miss Amy has to bring in a general manager from the outside. You cannot go with Ryan Cowden or Monty Austinford. No disrespect to those guys, because I know they're respected and they've gotten GM interviews elsewhere. But if you go with one of those two guys, you're basically saying Vrabel's going to run the team, they're going to work for him, and Todd Downing won't get fired. You're basically conceding to Mike Vrabel. And if you go bring in somebody from the outside who is ready for a complete change, you do it. I mean, Philip Mattis is right. It's coaching. Kyle Shanahan developed the game plan for Brock Purdy, the final player picked in the draft, and he's won a couple of games and helped them win the NFC West. We have a head coach and an offensive coordinator that doesn't adapt. Kyle Shanahan and Vrabel and Downing are basically being like Ken Wisenhunt. They're trying to make the players fit a certain system instead of making a system that fits the players. Now with Derrick Henry, yes, run the ball. But a good offensive coordinator and a good head coach knows how to scheme guys open and knows how to hide deficiencies and play to the best strength of your players, and they're not doing that. Next 3 games are critical or the next 3 games are critical. It's either going to be we make the playoffs or we rebuild. And I think Rocky Yitz saying to somebody else mentioning Big Jeff in a possible trade. I would never trade Jeff. Pay that dude. Pay that dude. And this is what I was talking with Miss Loretta, the crazy Titans lady, who's one of the biggest Titans fans I know. She didn't like me talking about AJ saying he didn't want to be here. And I said, no, AJ did want to be here. He said it. The Titans lowballed him. And everybody knows it. And Miss Mims, I hear you. Yes, I would not trade Derrick Henry either. But we all know the running back shelf life is very short. Derrick Henry is getting close to 30. If he's not already 30. A lot of players tend to head downhill after 30. And right now, Derrick Henry is 28 years old. So he probably has about 2 good years left. And we will definitely see. AJ wanted to be a Titan. And they did not play him. And Vrabel is being Belichick. He is. Not in a good way, though. And, I mean, if we go into a rebuild, it could be time to let go of Tannehill. That could happen, too. I mean, I don't think that'll happen, but nothing is out of the realm of possibility. So we're definitely going to see about that. But I don't know where this team goes from here. I really don't. This is about as low as I've been on this team. And Miss Sunshine, thank you for your support. The lady behind Titans and Truth. But do you think Malik Willis is quarterback one for the future? I don't know yet. I just don't know. I don't know. Pig Wiggle says it's been a rough month. It sure has. I don't know where this team goes from here. This team seems to has lost all confidence, has lost all faith. I think Vrabel is losing the locker room. And if Vrabel is losing the locker room and players start tuning him out, I think it might be time for Vrabel to go. I think it could be time for Vrabel to go. I think we've hit the ceiling for Mike Vrabel. He's got us to where we want. We win division titles. We're in the playoffs consistently. But after 2019, we have not won a playoff game since. 20, 21, and now 22. We're about to go one and done 3 straight years in a row. Understanding Vrabel is not a losing record, but as always in the NFL, what have you done for me lately? So, I think there's a lot of things that's going to be different next year. I think Burks will be better. Chig could be a bigger part of the offense. Maybe Dylan Radins could be the answer at left tackle. Maybe we don't have to spend a pick on a left tackle. We will have to see. But I think we're definitely going to need wide receiver help. They better re-sign Jeff Simmons if they know what's good for him. But I think a new general manager is going to do that. I said it before that I think Big Jeff will be back. Now that John Robinson is gone, John Robinson won't lowball him. And Lee says Downing has ruined Vrabel's tenure, and I agree. So that's about it for this show. I'm just we're trying to find a silver lining, but right now it ain't much of one. And Tannehill could be out for this game. Not exactly great news. But we're going to definitely talk tomorrow as we preview the Texans and get ready for that game on Saturday on Christmas Eve. If anybody needs a ticket for that Texan game, I'm not going to be able to go. I am willing to sell that ticket. So anybody hit me up if you want it with your best offer, and we will definitely go from there. I won't go any lower than 130. I will not. Well, I'll take that back. I won't go any lower than 100. That's as low as I'm going to go for my seat. So, I thank everybody for tuning in. I thank everybody for tuning in. I see Ms. Mims is upset. And I mean, hey, that's the thing. It's about trying to win a Super Bowl. We are tired of just winning the AFC South. We want more. Miss Amy wants more. Lou Joke said, I got 50. No. I'm like, I'm probably not going to go lower than 100. Sorry. So hit me up on my Facebook or on Twitter if you're interested. Class Ross says, if I was in the area, I hear you. But everybody, thank y'all for tuning into the show. I'm your man, Blue Enforcer, a.k.a. The Truth. Again, y'all make sure y'all like this show if you haven't already. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll make sure this goes out on Spotify, iHeart, Google, and Apple Podcasts as well. I am Blue Enforcer, a.k.a. The Truth. I thank y'all for tuning into the show. And Y'all have a great rest of the night. I'm in section 143, by the way. So hit me up and I'll tighten up, y'all, because that's all we know how to do.